To a Sunday morning with TGIK Games, where we are going to work on a game, a random game, because it's Sunday. That's kind of my play day to do what I want. So, I am going to work on a game. It's going to be a 4X game. It's going to be. I really don't know where it's going to. It's going to have enemy evolution. We'll get into what all of that means. But hold on a second. I got to get this chat set up. Okay, we're good to go. All right. So to start off with a 4X, we've never done a 4X game before, so we're going to take the definitions down, and we're going to make sure that we get all the 4X's included in this game. The explore is the idea that I have for exploring. There's going to be a fixed hex-based map or board, and players are going to have subboards. Now, on those subboards, they'll be represented by subboards. Will be represented by tokens on the main board, and players will have their own player mats, or there could be points of interest that will have their own map, but they won't necessarily. But won't be kind of in one player's control. So there's going to be, you can kind of explore within the larger world, but you can also explore on the kind of individual map world. Expand. Let's see. I haven't put any thought into how the resources are going to work for this game. Are there going to be resources? I mean, I guess there have to be resources, but there are. Let's just think about the general points right now. There are going to be enemy. If you look at the title, it's enemy evolution. So there are enemies on the board that players will have interest in getting rid of. And players are going to have to basically expand their territory, or their reach, I guess, to find where the enemy is and exterminate them, which is one of the X's. I don't know yet. If the players are working, together or against each other, I don't know. I don't know. I don't have any feelings about that right now. I can't form a real thought at this point yet either about that particular idea. Exploit. Okay. So, exploiting. Now, recently I played Scythe, and I actually liked how the resources in that game worked, where you gained them and they stayed on the board, and you could then use them. What I didn't like was how the resources moved around on the board. I feel like if it's an area that you control, maybe say you have a worker in one hex. Actually, here, let's say you've got resources here. In this space, you've got a worker here. Basically, a worker has access to any resource. Like, you could use the resources in any of the surrounding hexes, including the one you're in. But in Scythe, you actually have to have the worker and the resource in the same hex to use it. That was my understanding of the rules. I felt like it was more about, there should have been some sort of, let's just call it invisible infrastructure within the game. That would have made kind of thematic sense as to why, okay, well, that's reasonable that, we can access those resources on the board. If you can't tell, I've been sick for 2 weeks, so I don't know how long I'm going to be talking today. Really, I'm doing this to force myself to stream because I haven't been able to stream for 2 weeks. So we're gonna get the shape of this game, and we'll see how I feel, and maybe we'll keep going. So exploit. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use that scythe starting point with the resources on the board, because I did really like that. But build in an infrastructure. Infra, I don't even know what that word is. It's now infrastructure. Build in an infrastructure that, let's say, runs in the background. Can this infst be upgraded? Now, this is because it's a 4x, and I kind of intend for this to be a big box. I feel like I need to... over-design's the wrong term, but I feel like I shouldn't be afraid to make... I can't be afraid to make this a big game. And part of the reasoning why we want to do a big box game is we want to have a game that fits every genre. So Mars 445, which is about to go to production, that is going to be that's a small box game. We've got Gods of Olympus, which we finished the development on of yesterday. That is going to become kind of a light medium weight. I don't know how to. What I like about that game is that it provides a kind of a 2 to 3 hour experience in 45 minutes, which a lot of people claim. That is my opinion, but I am very biased. So if we ever get to play it, I'll let you decide if it's a 2 to 3 hour experience in 45 minutes. But we also want to get into building the heavier games. And if you listen to our podcast, you know that we talked about it recently, and how I'm not really sure how to manage the idea of a big 4X game. So this is going to be quite the learning process that you'll get to go along with us here. So all right. So can the infrastructure be upgraded? It probably should be. But this is a background system, so this is a background system, so not a priority. Okay, exterminate now. Other players, the enemy. We're just gonna call them bugs for now. We'll get into the bugs in a moment. That's the next thing I'm gonna do. Yes, these guys need to be exterminated. Other players. I'm going to make the decision that no, right now, this is kind of a co-op of sorts, but it's kind of like... I don't play a lot of video games, but the one I do play a lot of is RimWorld, and so I'm kind of... I don't like post-apocalyptic themes, but I like kind of barren planets that you're like stranded areas. Like Joe's working on a game called, I think it's called Stranded. We talked about it once on a podcast, and we tested it at a convention we both went to, and it was actually really, really good. I liked it a lot, and I kind of like, while I don't like, post-apocalyptic, the world is about to explode or destroy itself through war. I don't like those themes. I like the idea of getting stranded somewhere for some reason, or it could be you're going to explore this particular planet and there's just nothing there except for these bugs, which is very Starship Troopers, I know, but hey, child of the 90s, what can I say? Okay, so we have a rough idea of what all the 4X's mean, and the reason I'm doing this is I'm kind of doing it the sledgehammer way of just sticking up the definitions, is that I want to make sure I get all the 4X's in there, because I don't want to be a 4X that gets accused of not being a 4X. I don't want to be a 3.5X, and I want to make sure that all the pieces get their due. So that is why I've gone with that approach. Now, the thing that started this whole idea is evolving bugs. Evolving bugs. Oh, man. Like, being sick is just the worst. It goes without saying, but I've been sick for 2 weeks now. I'm totally over it. Okay. So, I was watching... Now, I may not play a lot of video games, but I watch a lot of video games be played on YouTube. I'll build prototypes and run, like, Let's Plays in the background. And so I've been watching a lot of Factorio with Arumba. I should give some credit there. And I noticed that part of the game is the bugs will actually evolve over time, and there's a percentage that runs in the corner. I don't know how the mechanic works exactly, because the game, when he plays, he doesn't get that far into it, but it's an interesting concept of critters that evolve over time. Critters that they also evolve over experience. Now, time, this is pretty straightforward. It's just, we'll call it a counter on the board that gives the enemy an upgrade, like a free upgrade. And then experience. There are two types that I have in mind for this. There's kind of, how do I word this? Like, in the game, when, okay, let's do this. Let's say in the game you have a wall, border. In the game you have a wall, and let's say you have a turret, and then you've got a turret here, and then you've got a turret here. Let's try that again. Okay. If the enemy is coming from over here, the enemy is going to run over, and they're going to get shot up all over here. Now, as the enemy runs in, if it's an AI system, it's just going to take the shortest point. Or, in my experience, AI systems, they would just take the quickest point into the base, and they would get shot up, and you basically, the player can run around and do whatever they want, like build the factory over here, or the base, or whatever, and you don't have to worry about it. The idea in this game is that in this cell here, call it C5, in C5, the enemies are looking at C5, and they're looking for how many of their dead buddies are in there, and it turns out that if they see up to 5, they will go to the next, they'll go next, they'll go there. If they see 5 dead bugs there, they'll go down here. And basically, the idea is that the AI will start probing for weakness until finally the bugs get down here, and there's no defenses. That's really fascinating to me. So, I also, and more importantly, I think it's a really simple AI system as well. I think it can be easily represented by a token. You can say that, oh, hold on. We could say something like, there are, why are you doing this to me? Stop it. Okay, note, there are marker bugs that will mark different hexes as dangerous, and future waves of bugs will not go through this region. Now, here's a problem that could potentially arise. You end up with, let's go back to this. Basically, you'll end up with people doing this sort of dealy bob. They'll just put turrets around everywhere, and that it's kind of it builds in a ceiling of, what's the term? I don't even know the term, but it builds in a ceiling of sorts. So how do we? It's something we have to be aware of. So let's just put this: be aware of the potential. Well, I'm not aware of the potential. Be aware. Okay, solution. So find a negative to the strategy of building Of circling the wagon of turrets. Let's call it that. Actually, negative's the wrong word to use here because that's motivating with a stick. I don't want to do that. Negative drawback. Drawback's a much better word to use. And I think that matters because putting it in the notes like this, it steers me away from actually building in a negative consequence. Negative consequences suck. Giving players a choice, knowing that if I do this, it comes with a drawback. Totally cool with that. I'm totally cool with painful drawbacks. I'm totally cool with giving advantages, lots of advantages to the other side if it's a drawback, just because it's player choice at that point. Whereas a negative, the connotation involved there is along the lines of, I don't have a good way to describe this, but just go with me. Trust me. I almost feel like I know what I'm doing. Okay. So experience. Back to this. We got distracted there. Okay. Here's the rough idea. There are going to be decks of cards. Decks of cards. And these cards are added to a species. I should probably also say there are, let's say, 3 or 4 different species of bug on this planet. Also, as we go through this, keep in mind that theme is totally changeable at this point. So just because we're talking bugs, it gives me just a baseline kind of frame of reference for everything that we're doing. So, okay. We're still good. Excellent. Last time I did a stream, my stream shut down on me, so I have to check in periodically, make sure it's still functioning. Okay, the 3 different species of bugs. Okay, so when a bug attacks or defends, I guess, depending on the technology used against the bug, they will learn. Learning is represented by one of the decks of cards. When a bug learns, their species gains a card. My cat's whining, but I know he has food and water, so he's just going to be loud. That's Shakespeare if you hear him. Okay. Learning is represented by one of the decks of cards. When a bug learns, their species gains a card. I feel like there's some mechanical rigmarole that needs to be sorted. But I need to do this with cards in front of me. So this is one of those things where when I'm designing, I'll actually put blank cards in front of me and I'll write a word on each card or something, and I'll move them around and I'll see how they feel, and what's the oh, excuse me. And I'll ask myself what the table flow is like for the enemy. And kind of, I'm thinking about when, okay, so let's say an enemy bug has learned something. Let's say, let's give you a better concrete example. Marine shoots and kills, let's say, 50 bugs with 1 weapon. What makes sense? It makes sense for the bugs to send in either a digging unit or say, actually, this is, make a note real quick. or develop armor. So, setting a tactics aside for right now, let's just say the bugs decide to develop armor or evolve armor. So one of these decks would be a defense deck. Now, that event that happens, the bug would gain a card from the blue deck. So the bugs now have a card from the blue deck. And that blue deck is, oh, excuse me. Blue deck is defense. And it could be anything. Players don't know yet. As the card is placed face down. I think the bugs are gonna have to be a lot stronger. Oh, actually, hold on a second. So in Factorio, there's we're gonna call it the pollution marker for now, but this is not how it's actually going to work in this game. So in Factorio, as the factory spits out more pollution, the bugs are more aware of what the player is doing. And then once pollution reaches a certain point, the bugs attack. Which actually, this can be tied into exploiting. Oh, you know what? This is actually going to be its own. It's going to be its own tracker. Okay, hold on. Its own note. Awareness. Let's call it awareness track. So when a player takes a produce action, there is a world tracker, maybe a region tracker. When a player takes a produce action, there's a world tracker, maybe region tracker. This tracker will increase, and when high enough, the bugs will become aware. Now, what does this represent? Basically, this is going to represent the idea of same thing as pollution. It's also going to represent the idea of noise. It's also going to represent the idea of kind of the building of, well, it's like the building of infrastructure required to pull in resources from around your base. Yeah, okay. This okay, so this represents activity levels around the board that bugs are aware of through their own means. Now, here's the thing. I'm going into this 4X idea that I need to build in as many shadow systems as possible, or not even shadow systems, just take shortcuts and just let the game and players make assumptions. So I don't want to get into the whole, making bug radar or getting into sensory. I mean, maybe it's a possibility, but let's just say for now that the bugs have like a network of stuff that basically, like, all the ants that are running around in the world, they give news back. Or here's a better real world example. Like, they've recently discovered that trees in a forest are all basically connected to one another through a fungus that's in the soil. So, and in their root system, it helps them defend one another and stuff like that. So we're going to assume that this is happening in the background. Um, it may never come up in the course of play, but it's the kind of thing where we're going to justify. We need to be able to reasonably justify, I'm increasing this world tracker. Does it make sense that all the bugs on the map are going to know? Yes, it does, because we're saying that there is some functioning mechanic in the world itself that allows for it to happen. And I'm okay with that. Does that mean we won't develop it later on? No. But for now, we're just going to make it a shadow system. So, let's see. Awareness tracks. So, there will be, okay, so there will be other tracks for world-based actions. But we don't know what they are yet. Sure, why not? Don't know what they are yet. Okay. All right. My throat's starting to get dry. I think we're going to wrap up here in a moment. What else do we need to do? We have the concept of decks that add to bugs. Where were we when we got sidetracked there by the awareness tracks? Bugs are going to have to be strong to start the game. Yeah, I think why? Let's ask that question. Why? Because I think thematically bugs need to think of it this way. When we walk by an ant farm in a field somewhere, whatever, it's playing, like when I was a kid and we played flag football or touch football, how many ant hills did we run by in the school fields and we were completely unaware? Probably a lot of them. Or just even more general terms, how many things do we walk by and are we unaware of? So thematically, let's say, okay, we're building a theme a bit now. So we're a group of explorers, maybe. Yeah, we'll start off as explorers. Group of explorers that have landed on this planet, and we just have little bases to start. There are bugs on this planet, and the bugs, because they're strong and don't really view these explorers as a threat yet, their bugs are going to go about their business and not really notice. Okay. I kind of like the idea of making these explorers non-human, or giving them different. Oh, you can almost say something like, a new planet has opened up, and all the federations of solar system. Or you could even make it say something like a star region is dying, and all the stars are going to turn into red giants over the next whatever 10,000 years, and the race to get off their planets has started or something. I don't know. I'm losing my focus here. Okay. Thematically needs to bug. Pay no attention to explorers because just type it out. Because explorers are weak. Well, weak and easy to not notice. The thing is, though, you can't start kind of R&D. Like, if you land on a planet, like, okay, in real life, like, all the infrastructure of getting raw materials and all the technology that's been learned in order to make weapons or make defenses or all those things, that's all happened over a long period of time. In this case, everybody shows up at the planet, and, like, we can't just say, oh, okay, well, you've landed on this planet. Like if you played RimWorld, for instance, like you start from scratch, like you can research stuff, but you have to somehow do like the gathering of resources, and you have to buy and sell, and kind of starting from scratch. And I don't know if I want to do that because I don't want to let time control too much, or I feel like letting. I feel like it's too easy to fall into the trap of letting this game go on too long. So you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna make another note. A note that there should be outside supply. Yeah, should be outside supply to the planet. Okay. Now, yeah. Okay. I think we're done. Yeah, my throat's pretty toast right now. Okay. So that's the start of our 4X game, which is yet to be titled. I think we're going to be back tomorrow. We're going to be working on its main project Monday, where we finished development on Gods of Olympus, so I might be remaking some prototype pieces. I might be working on the Necromansion, which is our other main game. Yeah, so we shall see. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you next time.